Welcome to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast with your host, Brandon Seigel. I'm a published author, speaker, entrepreneur, and private practice strategist dedicated to transforming the way that healthcare functions. This podcast is all about empowering you to create the change you want to see. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. In this quick tip episode, we're talking about your brand story as a game changer. Now, I think brand story is so important, really, really important. And I have seen companies make it or break it as a result of that brand story. And as we look at brand story, and I'll kind of talk about some of the ingredients, what I want you to think about is like, how did you find your brand? What was that story? What did that look like? How are people relating to the foundation of your brand, your purpose, your journey, where you're on it? And I want you to think of it like if someone was to make a biographic movie about your brand, what would that look like? And I know that, so my mother-in-law is incredible. And she has been an occupational therapist. I'm not allowed to say how many years, but many, many. And I've had the privilege to work with her for almost 20 years, just under 20 years. But her brand story is what brought people together. And in her brand story, she was working for a hospital. And the hospital was working with infants. And one day the program that she was overseeing got eliminated. It wasn't making enough money for the hospital. And so all of these people came to her and said, you need to do something about it. And while working, I think it was 3 jobs at the same time, she created her company on her dining room table. And she brought her husband and all her friends and all these people that she knew came together to create this thing. And it really became this brand story where people just saw, hey, she's not, trying to be the next CEO of Apple. Like she's just trying to create a little bit of change. And her story, I think, is what shaped the organization's vision, mission, and purpose. But it ultimately was the alignment in which every employee bought into, hey, this is something that's just like grassroots, purpose-driven, and we're going to make this thing go right. And we're now, the company's over 22 years old now, and she's rocking and rolling. And to this day, I still think it is her connection to the brand story that makes what I'm going to say cultivates the environment for us to create the change we want to see in all of our patients. And I think brand story is really important. I think about stories in general. I love stories. I think storytelling is my favorite thing. And I think it's because I see in pictures, I whether I'm listening to something or I'm reading something or I'm watching something, I need to see that picture. And so that brand story really communicates. And I think that, as we look at our brand story, I even think about, so my grandfather on my dad's side started 2 companies. One company he started was called Riviera Sofa Beds. And they were the first convertible sofa bed ever. And I remember my grandfather told me the brand story. And the brand story was him and his brothers had this idea that they were exhausted because they slept on a terrible sofa bed. And it wasn't a sofa bed, it was just a sofa. They turned the sofa. They're like, what if a sofa could convert into a bed? And what's amazing is they took a problem that they all related on, but it was the relationship between them and their brothers and all these different things and how it came about that created this brand story where all of a sudden Bob Hope was representing their brand and all these different things. So that was one brand story. Another brand story, grandfather again, in his classroom, Pierce College, California, teaching business. A student one day comes up to him and says, I have an idea, and will you help me, Dr. Seigel? And my grandfather said, sure. And sure enough, every morning they would meet and they would build a business plan for what became California Closets. But the brand story that's interesting was student, community college professor brought this idea to life, and it became a family legacy. And it became a success story, not just for, obviously my family, because my uncles and aunts and parents all had founding franchises, but also the original co-founder who was the student, Neil. And it's just pretty incredible to see that journey, to see that brand story, to hear that brand story is phenomenal. And I think that every brand story allows us to translate purpose, intention, reality, and alignment. And so when we're communicating our brand story, I want you to figure out, how are you going to create that clear narrative? What happened? Why it's here? What it is? What is the engagement with the audience? What is the visual that you can create? See, every time I talk about California Closets, I actually picture my grandfather in a classroom with this student, writing it down, writing chicken scratch, putting it all together. What's that visual? How do we relate? And you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a teacher that did that with me when I was 21 years old. Communicating changes that are occurring or that happened or where we are or where we've come from. Highlighting core values. Using testimonials and endorsements. So when I talk about my mother-in-law's company, I talk about it from when I came in. I say, hey, this company was founded on purpose, and it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mother-in-law, who demanded change in the community because programs were getting cut for more lucrative medical programs. Babies, infants, toddlers needed it. And over the last 21 years, we've had our road bumps. But one of the things that I think really evolved for us was that we recognized our model was dedicated to going qualitatively versus quantitatively. When we first started, it was, hey, if you had a license, you could work for us. And suddenly we recognized that we were more focused on changing one child at a time than changing 100 children at a time. And that one child could be that drop of water that changes the entire pH of our world. And so all of a sudden, that story, through clear narrative, engaging the audience, leveraging visuals, communicating change, highlighting our core values, those are all things we did. And then testimonial. About 10 years ago, we went through a third-party audit to see where our clinical outcomes would translate. And we got ranked in the top 3% of California at the time, which is phenomenal. And that's something that we are proud of. And that's something we continue to strive to do. And it's a testimonial to our dedication to the patient outcomes that we work with. And so I think all of these things are crucial to the way that our brand continues and how we resonate. And the reason why a brand story is a game changer, one, it leaves an impact. I want you to think of a brand story like tattooing something in someone's mind. I remember people by stories, not by name. I remember brands based on a story-based experience. I remember the first time I flew international and what that brand was like, that memory. You know, what is the airline? What was it like? What does it taste like? What does it feel? What does it see? I want your brand to have that same story. I want your brand to be able to translate beyond just transaction, because I think the brand is the vehicle for getting what you do to the next gear as a transformational communication. Let's get off of, hey, I do pediatric therapy. It's so funny because I go in and I ask someone, what do you do? And they always tell me what their license is or what their title is. So, hey, John, what is it that you do? I'm an acupuncturist. I'd actually rather you say, you know what, Brandon? I help people so that they no longer feel pain. Oh my gosh, tell me how you do that. Oh, well, we have different types of modalities. And at that point you may say, I'm an acupuncturist that practices Eastern medicine and blah, 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 whatever that may be. But my point in all of this is, don't define yourself by your licensure. Define yourself by what you do from a purpose-driven standpoint. So for me, I help private practices profit easier, and I optimize the way that they function. Plain and simple. I can give you my story. I can give you that story, all that stuff. But getting to not, I'm a medical billing agency. I'm a management company. I'm a pediatrician. I help children stay well. Oh, how do you do that? Well, I have a pediatric practice. We do all different modalities, different services, and we've got lots of specialties. We'd love to be of service to the community. Did you know that businesses that use storytelling in their branding see conversion rates increase by up to 22 times? That's what Stanford University reported. Literally, storytelling contributing to conversion rates of up to 22 times. What if your intake process used storytelling? Are your patient care coordinators, are they storytellers? Maybe they need to be. A great brand story doesn't just tell people who you are, it makes them feel something. Donald Miller. Thank you for joining us for this quick tip episode of the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I hope that you enjoyed our episode, and it would mean the world to me if you would like us, subscribe, and share us with the world. Because together we can thrive, not just survive. Thank you for tuning in to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of you. Exciting news. We're now available everywhere, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to YouTube or anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. So watch, listen, and reach out. If you loved this episode, please drop a 5-star review. It truly means the world to me. Are you looking for more ways to elevate your practice? If so, now is your chance. Reach out, go to my website, or email me at brandon@wellnessworksmp.com. And remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.